Hey everyone, Jared Regaspi, I'm back again. I'm wanting to do something a little bit different because it's boring being and as much as I still have appointments and stuff, they're all done over the phone or I have to go somewhere and record stuff on my phone. And so it begs the question, what am I doing while I'm in quarantine in order to stay preoccupied and stay busy? And one thing that I do a lot, and my wife makes a lot of weird comments about, is that I'm kind of overly obsessive with Naruto. Just because Naruto's lore in general is just something that I've cared about since I was a little kid. Naruto, a show I watched since I was a little kid, and yeah, no, the lore behind the show just in general is phenomenal. The history that's built throughout the entirety of the manga is insane. So I feel like I can watch a lot of stuff about Naruto and never really get bored because there's always something different that I haven't really seen or heard about, or things that I have seen and heard about getting explored a little bit further. So, point is, during the time of the quarantine, maybe even a little bit afterwards, I'm going to basically just start doing reviews of the manga going forward. And so today, as you can probably see from the title, I don't know what I'm titling it yet, but it's going to be something like Naruto, a manga issue, brr. And I'm going to basically just be reading the manga, and not reading it out loud where you guys have to just read along with me, but kind of just giving you my thoughts on each piece as I go through them. And hopefully that's not super boring. Hopefully I just don't drag on too long. I know I like to talk a lot, and so that's why I'm doing an issue by issue instead of volume by volume. It's, gonna be way too long if I do that. So instead I'm going to be going snippet by snippet and hopefully just breaking that down into small little fun chunks for everyone, so that way we can all kind of see where Naruto's come from since it was first created. Because reading the first manga chapter, and let's just jump into it, it's actually kind of interesting just to see how things are slightly different. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of spoilers for the one person in the entire world who hasn't seen Naruto, but point is that you can tell there's a definite tone shift from one, how it's looked to whenever it was first created versus what it eventually became, especially now with things like Boruto, but also just the way that some of the lore in the show really felt early on. Naruto, when it first started, there wasn't this idea of tailed beasts like it's so well known for. And so when it's explained that Naruto is a demon, that he's been basically ostracized from his entire village since he was a kid, it really feels like there's something wrong with him inherently, and he's an innocent in this. It's almost like more of a form of possession, which it is in a pretty hefty way, quite literally that. But you don't have any context for it. It's just Naruto is this weird demon child that he's not aware of and everyone's told to keep secret about, and that's really sad. And so you actually genuinely feel for the character. And he's still pretty annoying, not quite as annoying as I remember him being whenever I first started watching the anime. Thankfully he's not screaming "believe it" every 16 seconds.
Believe it! Believe it! So believe it! Then believe it!
And I know that the anime eventually caught on and stopped having him do that, but it's like watching Asta and Black Clover in the first few episodes of the anime where he's just screaming the entire time. I don't know why anime think that they need to have their adaptation of the manga be extra annoying just early on, but I'm glad Naruto stopped doing that. But you don't get him as annoying in the manga as you do in the anime. He feels very much more like someone who's quite literally just acting out so that way he can try to get some form of attention, because otherwise he doesn't feel anything. And that's a real psychological thing. There's a study out there that says that homeless people tend to go crazy because they're homeless, not become homeless because they're crazy. And the logic behind it is that being homeless, people have a different opinion of you. If you go and try to ask someone for help, their first impression is that you're wanting to just take and that you aren't a hard worker, and that they're more or less just disgusted by you. And if it's someone else, like if I were to go to a store and ask for some help, people might hear me out a lot more than if I were homeless, or at the very least if I looked homeless. And so it's the mentality of, if you are being told that you're insane or that something's wrong with you over and over and over again, eventually, inadvertently, you start to believe it. And that's a real world type of issue that's explored just a little bit in the very first chapter of Naruto, is the fact that he's acting out and getting into trouble because that's the only way that he feels like he's got any attention at all. That's the only way that he even feels like he's a human being. He'd rather be hated than be neglected and ignored. And so, I don't know, there's just something about that. That's basically the entire purpose of the first chapter of the manga. Naruto's this lazy kid who just can't really accomplish anything, and he's really bad at everything, and he ends up stealing a scroll that lets him basically learn a skill that's dangerous for most people that he was managed to be able to do himself. And it's not explained why yet, and that's kind of the beauty of it, is you don't really have context why. You see a hint of the fact that Naruto is this extremely powerful person, but you don't understand exactly where the strength's coming from, why these scrolls were so dangerous to begin with, and why they were forbidden. You just know that they were. The world is still kind of hidden to the readers, and so you don't really understand everything without context. And so it makes it more interesting. And I've read and watched everything already, but going back and rereading it, you do feel a little bit different than if you were to just jump into the manga or the anime halfway through. Because you do sort of know what happens in the first chapter without having to read it. But reading it's definitely pretty interesting. So, that's it. There's not a whole lot more for me to say, but it's interesting. Like I said, it really does a good job at tackling a real-world issue very early on in a very realistic way in a very non-realistic world. And so I do give a lot of credit for Naruto for that. I don't remember it doing it as well as it did, and it is a really sad kind of thing to watch happen to some people, and so to see them tackle a topic like that's really cool. And I didn't think I was going to bring that up, but yeah, you've got a situation where you have the one person that you think is a douchebag, that being his teacher Iruka, actually be the person that cares about him the most, and you have the person that you feel like is trying to reach out to him actually being the person that manipulates him, that being with Mizuki. And Mizuki's kind of a side character, but it is kind of cool again to be able to read back and kind of see the manipulation behind it. It does a good job in the first chapter alone of just sort of playing on a psychological level, and I think it gets lost later on without going into too much spoilers, but Naruto and Boruto in general tend to just sort of become who has the bigger blast and who has the bigger energy beam, and that person wins, and you kind of forget a little bit about how much of a psychological and an emotional series this started as, and that gets, a little bit forgotten, and so it's kind of cool to go back and read. So, yeah. Like I said, everyone knows what happens in the first chapter of Naruto, but it's definitely fun to go back and read. So, go back and read it. We'll be back here again, probably tomorrow, in order to go over chapter 2, and so on and so forth, and hopefully that stops us all from going slowly insane, being cooped up inside during the quarantine. So I will talk to you guys later. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe or leave comments. I don't know who else, has been reading the Naruto manga currently, and so if you are, it'd be really cool to see where you're at. And for the one person that hasn't watched or read Naruto, start. I don't know what you're doing. And then for the people who have seen Naruto and watched Naruto since they were a kid, like me, I'd really like to get your thoughts on what you think about early Naruto versus later Shippuden and Boruto. So, let's start a conversation. I will talk to you guys later. Thanks so much. Bye.